He just rugby tackled her, pinned her to the ground. Luckily for her, she knew self-defense. She knew Taekwondo. If you were to drive maybe 30 minutes northeast of San Diego, you would encounter the city of Escondido. And one family in particular was there. The Dubois family. Amber was the oldest child in the family at 14 years old. Amber attended Escondido High School, or she had just started to. She was actually taking on extra classes because she wanted to finish up earlier. She wanted to be out of there. Or at least that was the plan until February 13th, 2009. That Friday morning, she was walking to school as usual. Well, except a little more excited at this time, as she was going to buy a lamb. She was doing a project for Future Farms of America. So gotta get that lamb. Has to be done. And so she was carrying a check for 200 big ones as she walked the roughly mile from her house to her high school. She never finished that walk though. That afternoon, her stepfather, he was surprised when she never came home from school because she was very, on the dot. He called her, no answer, texts, nada. So he rang up the school and the teachers said they were surprised at her absence that day. The teacher, she was supposed to give that check to for 200 smackaroos. They never got that check and she would have given it. She was so excited about this farming project, she loved animals. So something was very wrong. This was very worrying for predictable Amber. The knocking on neighbors' doors began, followed swiftly by Nina's, as there was no sign of her. No sign of her at all in quiet, safe, northeastern Escondido. With no sign the next morning, worry mounted and mounted. They did find some witnesses who saw her walking to school that morning. And they saw her speaking to a man after 7 a.m. But that was it. There were a few sightings, about town. Following up on them led to nothing. Over the months, volunteers dwindled, as did enthusiasm as it turned to weary resignation. She wouldn't be found. These things just happened. That was the mood for everyone except Amber's parents, of course. They would not stop, even when the 1-year anniversary came and went. It was the 25th of February 2010. 17-year-old Chelsea King went jogging in the Rancho Bernardo Community Park. In the afternoon, she was going for a 5-mile run. She never came home. Right at the 1-year anniversary, 10 minutes down the road from where Amber Dubois was last seen. She usually went for a jog after school, more often though in her own neighborhood. But this time, she wanted to jog this trail in the park to scope it out as part of an environmental project she was working on. When she didn't return an hour and a half after she was supposed to, her parents followed up on her, went to the park, found her car, didn't find Chelsea. And she was reported missing at 7:20 p.m. Less than a minute after the police were notified, they were immediately like, hey, this is Amber Dubois again. 2 miles from her car, in the park, underwear and socks were found. Blood was found. Pretty much everything that could be done was done. Border Patrol, FBI, anyone on the sex offenders list. Tips after tips after tips came in. Amber's parents took part. Later, one of Chelsea's shoes was found, far from where the other garments were. The lake in the park was searched. Were early birds involved? But other than what was already found, nothing else. Someone came forward. It was a jogger who also used that park all the time. And she said that 2 months previous, back in December 2009, she had been out having a jog and she was attacked. She had been able to fight her off and she gave the police a description. It was a white guy, 20s, stocky build, short brown hair. She said that as she was out having a jog, he just rugby tackled her, pinned her to the ground. Now, luckily for her, she knew self-defense. She knew Taekwondo, so she clocked him with her elbow in the face. And so the description of the man she gave, that same guy was seen in the park the day Chelsea King disappeared. It took days before the clothing could be analysed, and DNA was found, coming from two different people. One, Chelsea, the other, a man. But not like we usually see an unidentified guy at this time. This wanker was on the sex registry. Meet convicted sex offender John Albert Gardner III. John had been in prison for 5 years after molesting a 13-year-old girl back in 2000. He eventually returned home that night, the 25th of February, when Chelsea disappeared, with a snake in his hand. A snake that was missing its head. He was wiggling it about the place, saying, hey, it had tried to get him, but he got it instead. He was also covered in mud, dirt, and scratches. He also had, real crazy eyes, Manson lamps. So, a few days later, when his DNA matched what was found on Chelsea's clothing, he was put under surveillance. They were watching him, hoping Chelsea was still alive. He was later found at a bar, wearing wet and muddy clothing, and so the police took him in and did a lineup for the woman who had been attacked months before, and she instantly fingered him. He was arrested and interviewed about the disappearance of Chelsea King. He said nothing, even when confronted with his own DNA. He said he was being falsely accused. This is a load. You got the wrong guy. And guess what? I bet you're going to try and pin Amber Dubois on me too. Yeah, he said that. Red flag. In fact, there were so many red flags about John Gardner, it's amazing. He was still out and about. A psychiatrist who did an evaluation of him back in 2000 labeled him a danger to society. Here, quote, "The defendant does not suffer from a psychotic disorder. He is simply a bad guy who is inordinately interested in young girls. However, his predilection towards younger girls is a problem. He manifests significant predatory traits and is a danger to the community." This was a warning unheeded. Chelsea was found 5 days after she disappeared. FBI divers found her in the lake. John was in court the very next day, charged with murder. John Gardner would later take the police to Amber Dubois' body. See, he had pled not guilty to Chelsea King's murder.
What did I say about using my Old Spice dry spray?
I need long-lasting freshness.
And said he had nothing to do with Amber Dubois. When the death penalty was on the cards, he quickly changed his mind. Not having that. Pled guilty to both and took them to her body on an Indian reservation 20 miles north of where she vanished. John Gardner was sentenced to 2 terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole for the rape and murder of both Chelsea and Amber. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. Please, as always, take care of yourselves because I love you.
It's sad. You can't even go jogging nowadays or do anything without weirdos like this guy trying to attack women and do all this other crazy stuff now. I think, to be honest, self-defense class should be free, definitely to women, or some kind of discount, because protecting yourself and saving yourself shouldn't cost. Even though it costs a lot of people lives, I think the necessary step, you know what I'm saying, that they should do is, hey, when you in school, make it like a class that everybody got to take, you know what I'm saying, like they used to do. Because some of the stuff I had to take in school, I dang sure ain't using it in today's world. So they could do it like that. Use it as a class that you got to take. Because they're not teaching you anything about credit, money, all that stuff when I was in school. And I don't see them really doing that now. So that's why self-defense classes should be taught. So hopefully, if you're strong enough and you can use the right move and technique, these type of guys and women, because they use women to lure them in, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully nothing like this will happen. So I feel that's something that should be done. I mean, who knows? There's a lot that needs to be done and that should be done.
Cops say the criminal vandalism in this video is actually a TikTok challenge.
Hey, Kool-Aid!
Oh yeah! Teens are breaking through fences like the Kool-Aid Man in these ads and allegedly filming it for TikTok. Last week on Long Island, surveillance video captured these teens running into multiple sections of a fence and breaking through it.
That's when I heard the bang. It sounded like a gun go off. I ran outside. I got a description of the vehicle.
Believe it or not, while cops were at the first house taking a statement, the teens returned to try to break through the fence again. Cops caught 6 teens, the oldest was 18 and the youngest only 12. They say these teens actually hit more than one home that night.
On the night in question, it looks like 4 homes were actually hit and that we were able to tie to these individuals. There may be other properties that we're looking into. It's still under investigation.
None of them were sent to jail, but they were all given desk appearance tickets.
They were just driving around, kicking in fences. What if you're 12 years old? You're out at 4 o'clock in the morning. Where are your parents?
Cops had a warning for other kids thinking about attempting the challenge.
They shouldn't be influenced by social media or their friends. I mean, I know it seems fun and it might seem like a prank, but there's a real, it's criminal and they will be held accountable.
I don't see how TikTok be letting these trends go through when clearly if I was to post anything or something, you know what I'm saying, my stuff get flagged. They out here throwing flags like they motherfucking football refs or something. But yet, trends like this that can get people hurt, killed, body bag type stuff. It's cool, and they letting it go because I hear about this stuff. Oh, my bad. Shout out to John over at Notice News, but I hear about this stuff all the time from different news reporters on these TikTok trends and challenges that's getting people hurt, killed, and all that negative shit. You know what I'm saying? So they starting to ban TikTok in the government. Canada filed the same thing. Now they trying to think about, maybe we should ban TikTok in America.